Tanekamara. My name is Sage Blake. I'm a wanderer, storyteller, artist amateur, and have I ever mentioned how much I love Megaman ZX and Megaman Zero with that? This game is Starbreaker, a Sage title that promises to deliver the same charm as the Megaman Zero series, but with a different coat of paint and a little bit different execution. We've got quite a varied moveset at our disposal, starting with the, most obvious thing, the Beam Saber. The Beam Saber doesn't exactly combo like the Z-Saber does, but it still has that same sense of power. It still has that same sense of weight to it. It's a really versatile weapon, sporting an aerial attack that easily covers the area around you, as well as just generally being useful for many situations that you end up encountering in the game. Also, on your options list is a dive kick, which allows you to dart in and out of combat on the fly, provided you master it. The angle's a little funky, so it'll take a little learning to get used to it, but when you finally do, there is nothing more satisfying than just diving in. And of course, until that point, it's gonna be a bit tricky, because you could easily get yourself mashed into trouble just as easily as you could mash yourself into combat like that. You also get the ability to use a gun. These charge shots are fairly powerful, travel very long distance, and are generally useful for taking out enemies before they can even get close to you. You won't be able to use the gun at all situations though, shots are absorbed by walls. But that's when we get into the beauty of this system. Mods. Megaman Zero had a similar system with modification chips that changed the elemental properties of your attacks or gave you other properties like double jump or water walking and what have you. This game has something kinda similar to that. And death? You're gonna see me die a few times during this. Nothing against the game, I've actually done a deathless run. It's somewhat difficult. I wouldn't say it's incredibly difficult, but your first time through, you will be struggling a little bit with trying to learn controls and whatnot. But back to the mods. There are a total of 8 mods that you can find in this game, and they are represented by the red crystals that you find every so often. Pick up a crystal, you pick up a mod. And half of those mods are shot mods. One of them is a beam attack that actually allows you to pierce through enemies, but drastically cuts your range. There's a fire elemental chip, which boosts the power of your shots. There's no fire effect that I've noticed, but small price to pay. This is an indie game, after all, made by a single person. Or at least a demo for a potential indie game. At that, there's also the V-Shot and Spread Shot power-ups, which do as you think. V-Shot allows you to fire above and below, allowing you to hit enclosed nooks and whatnot. And the Scatter Shot, so the Spread Shot is absolutely deadly powerful, and why would you not use anything outside that? You can equip 2 different gun mods at the same time. My personal favorites are the Spread Shot and Line Gun that you saw earlier that I picked up. Line Gun being the laser. It just creates a giant cone of death that makes it really easy to sweep through enemies. Though, if I could knock this game for a couple things, the first of which would be the obviously placeholder menus. They're really simple, and while they're really easy to navigate, I end up with a bit of an issue. I use controller a lot for these games, you know? But for my PlayStation controller, for one reason or another, Confirm ends up being my left shoulder, while Cancel ends up being my right shoulder. There have been many points where I've just accidentally clicked one of them due to my own neuroticisms, and ended up opening up a menu when I didn't want to. And that can be a bit annoying. But at the same rate, the menus here, while the graphics are relatively placeholder, they do their jobs really well, and also a really nice detail that was relatively recent, color customization. Oh yes. Me personally, I like having the tan, green, blue pattern, but the base default is really nice to look at too. If you're ever colorblind and want to see more of your character, or just want to see something different from usual, then it's a really nice option to be able to customize your colors like this. And here we get into one of the mid-bosses. It's not that difficult. Just aim for the head with your laser. You can fairly easily take it out if you maintain your distance. If you want to keep close, that's fine too. Just make sure to reflect shots on occasions using your beam saber. Yeah, it can do that for one reason or another. But like I said, not that hard. But also in your moveset is not just a double jump, but also a dash function. The dash goes as long as you hold down the button, which is really nice, considering in the Megaman Zero series, you had to mash that stuff. That got to be pretty annoying, and being able to hold the button down is just a nice change in general. My one gripe about it, though, for one reason or another, it just doesn't carry momentum after the first jump. In Megaman Zero 3, you could pair the dash with the double jump chip that they had in there and go really far distances. Pretty sure speedrunners might actually use that stuff. But regardless, you can't do that here. You can, however, grip poles on occasions, a la, I believe, Megaman Zero 4 had that gimmick with the Zero Knuckle. And you will need to use those poles on occasions to avoid obstacles or generally progress through the stage. But anyways, yeah, you don't really carry momentum with your second jump, which is kinda disappointing, but I can make do. The micro missile here actually gives me another thing to talk about. Our main character here, Alpha, yeah, that's his name, also can equip modifications for his saber, or his beam sword, his core, and also for his special weapon. Yeah, believe it or not, special weapons are just mods. And you get 3 different special weapons to pick from as you unlock them. Your base one sends up a flare that I think can distract certain types of enemies. Don't quote me on that. I don't even think it works. But regardless, it's very inexpensive and harmless. The micro missile is the one you're probably going to be using the most, because it fires a tracer round that, well, deals moderate damage to enemies. It's fairly useful to have just to cover your blind spots and generally spam out. Speaking of which, there goes the 9 o'clock express. God damn, he's just not— oh shit! He's not stopping! Someone needs to get that train conductor a bit of a penalty. What in the— where are you going? Your core modifications are going to prove invaluable. The micro missile, as I mentioned, is very useful, but there's another mod that you can get called the I'm trying to remember exactly what it was called. I think it was like a rocket knife or something like that. Yeah, you'll see it later. But regardless, so that one allows you to attack blind spots even better, but at 2 costs. Ow! God damn, the train is late! The first cost is damage. The missile knife doesn't exactly hurt enemies all too much. Second is that it kinda just— the missile knife can attack enemies up to 3 times rapid fire, but since its hits are relatively weak, it's mostly good for just taking out enemies that are in very uncomfortable to reach places, which can be mitigated with the charge shot laser and B-shot. Well, if you like that sort of thing. The core mod you can find is Sticky Fingers. It makes it so that you don't have to hold toward a wall in order to grip it, and decreases the sliding speed down that wall as well. The last upgrade that you can get in this game, the name a secret, allows you to fling enemies using your beam sword. It is so fun to just bop them and then see them fly into parts unknown, or parts known but very vaguely uncomfortable. This game has a really nice flow to it, and outside of the occasional sound bug, it's just a very fun romp. I really enjoy it. It kind of makes me want to go back and play Megaman Zero every time I go to this thing, or even see footage of it. Well, I'm thinking about it. ZX Collection released recently, didn't it? I wonder how that's doing. Let's hope I can get some money together for that. But anyways, back to Starbuster. As I mentioned, the general design of this game is great. The enemies look nice, the player model looks nice. The music is very Mega Man Zero-4, if I may. It just has that nice bit of techno-ish rock that you'd expect out of a Mega Man Zero game. It fits. Though the plot for this game is a bit on the strange side. Essentially, Alpha here is meant to be a war machine and decided to rebel against his creators after they gave him a little too much free will. Well done. But outside that, you don't really get much story whatsoever out of this demo, except for the very end, and even then, it's not really much story in the first place. But overall, it's a very fun package, and I recommend that you go out and try this. Oh boy, here's the aforementioned power-up that flings enemies to the sun. Yeah, there are little descriptions for each of the mods. Some of them are pretty tasteful and hilarious. And also tasteful and hilarious is seeing a giant tank that's at least 3 times Alpha's size just get catapulted to parts that you are vaguely reminiscent of. I have a little too much fun with this power-up. It doesn't fling every enemy. Actually, some of the mounted turrets can't be moved because, well, they're mounted. But it's really interesting. It's really interesting seeing the diversity in terms of the types of mods that this person decided to throw into the game. Many of them are reminiscent to Mega Man Zero, yes, but some of them are original and feel like natural extensions of that type of format. There have been issues in the past with this game in terms of bugs and whatnot. A couple patches were put out to fix, most notably, to give the trains a little more of a obvious tell as to when they were coming. Such, I feel like the headlights themselves were enough of an obvious tell. But also to aug the fact that originally, for one reason or another, Alpha couldn't use his gun at the same time as his saber. It was a minor programming bug. But it got fixed in the end, and led to an amusing moment where I ended up getting completely and utterly perplexed. Seriously, why can't you use your feet? Yeah, you couldn't even use the dive kick while you were charging your gun for whatever reason. In this last area, just a little warning, these boxes can actually deal crushing damage to you if you let them. Just a little word of warning on that. I had it happen to me. So just try to either leave them be whenever you need to, or slash them apart from a moderately safe distance. You can use your gun too, and the laser power-up makes it even easier to shred through them. But don't shred through all of them, because in order to get one particular mod, the broken triple shot, you need to actually have these boxes intact here on the second train car. There's a new Game Plus option for this game as well, that I'll show off at the very end, essentially so I could show off the missile knife, where all the mods that you've collected can be carried over into the next playthrough, just to have a little more fun with it. It's a nice addition, honestly. It gives you a nice little power trip, and allows you to experiment with all the power-ups that you have in an area that you normally wouldn't have them. I guess one of the other complaints I could say about this game is the level layout is somewhat linear. I mean, the Megaman Zero games were pretty linear themselves, yeah, and they occasionally had branching pathways. Maybe I just enjoyed the fact that that ZX and at that ZX Advent were taking a bit of a different approach in terms of the structure, introducing a mission-based format that also allowed you to explore an open world, as opposed to just lines and upon lines of stages. But at the same rate, in those games, it did have its faults, because, well, it was too open. But that aside, let's get to the second boss here. Thunderbird used to give me a heck of a hard time when I first played this game. I don't know why, maybe it's because of the fact that it moves so much, making it a little tricky to hit. But for one reason or another, I just died and died and died on it. But I did come up with a couple tactics to use against it. First up, while it does use a lot of spread shot stuffs, if you're careful, then you can easily slap it with your beam sword every so often. Or if you have the laser mods, then you can use those in tandem with the triple spread. As I've mentioned, it covers a wide area. Also, another trick that I learned during this playthrough specifically, you could dive kick repeatedly the head of the boss and just keep out of the range of its attacks. It's hilarious that you could cheese this thing like that. The homing missile isn't too difficult to deal with, you can shoot it out of the air even, but its shot spreads, like this one, can be fairly annoying if you end up not paying attention to your spacing. The bomb it drops isn't too terrible to dodge either, just bait it like you would most other attacks that end up off-screening. But after a point, you will start to deal 0 damage to this boss. It essentially means that it's going to finish up whatever attack wave it's on, and then explodinate. This Thunderbird just got toasted. Delicious rotisserie. But sadly, Alpha's core kind of runs out of power. And that's the only bit of story that we get. I'm really intrigued as to where this project goes, honestly, because, well, again, I loved the Mega Man Zero games growing up. My sister even owns the Zero collection on DS, and on occasions I find myself going back to that game just to mess around and enjoy it. But that's pretty much all the commentary that I could say about this game. What's my overall opinion? I'd argue, and people will hate me for this, that this is one of the best, if not the best entry of Sage 2019. And I really look forward to not only the final result, but also more news of this project and its advancements. But for now, I'm gonna return to the void and hope that people don't kill me in the comments section. As usual, if anyone wants to support me in my endeavors, then just subscribe to the channel, give me a little lip service on occasions. I also stream every so often, weekends actually, on my Twitch channel. And I also listen to people. I have a social media account at Sage of Mai, or Magi, on Twitter, and yeah. Feel free to use that as a method of contacting me or bugging me about certain things. But for now, I'm gonna return to the void. Dahil again, delegate, man.
Wow.